Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, on the best of days and on the worst of days, family can be, difficult would probably be an understatement. But if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do because you're listening. Subscribe to the podcast. We're pretty much on every platform like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, do not hesitate to check us out on the social media, as the kids call it. We're on the Facebook, we're on the Twitter, and we're on the Instagram, and where else? We're at In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from basically whatever the moving image has to offer. Film, TV, festivals, the whole Megillah. You know, because if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. On this episode, we got a fantastic one. We're diving into a brand new film which is on the Apple Plus streaming service right now. It had a really good festival run. It played Toronto. It is called Raymond and Ray, and it is bit of a comedy, bit of a drama, but half-brothers, Raymond and Ray, played brilliantly by Ewan McGregor and Ethan Hawke, reunite when their estranged father dies and discover that his final wish was for them to actually dig his grave. And together, in this entire ordeal and process, they process who they've become as men and as individuals, both because of who their father was, but also in spite of him as well. It's honest, it's funny, it's hilarious. It's really a fascinating look at grief and the rules or the lack thereof, and just sort of the importance of processing it however you have to process it. I mean, this is a great film with some fantastic performances, like I said, from Ewan McGregor and Ethan Hawke, but also from several other people in this film, with the likes of Maribel Verdú, who people might know, and Sophie Oquendo, who is just a powerhouse in and of herself. This is really a fascinating character-driven film, and like I said, if you have the Apple Plus streaming service, you can check this out tomorrow, and it's worth checking out. If you don't have Apple Plus, or Apple TV Plus, depending on how you call it, sign up now, because it really is a fantastic service. And they keep bringing the good stuff every single week. But before you go check out Raymond and Ray, which, like I said, is available on the Apple Plus streaming service now, enjoy our talk with the writer-director Rodrigo Garcia, talking about sort of the origins of the film and so very much more. And it's a good one too. It's a good conversation we had. So enjoy that and enjoy the film. All right, well, obviously, Rodrigo, first off, just thank you so much for the time today, and congratulations on the film, man. I absolutely loved it.
Thank you very much.
Now, I mean, walk me through sort of the inspiration for the story of this film on your end.
You know, I have no idea where it came from. I did have the original idea of one guy who was a trumpet player, and he was digging his father's grave. And I'm not even sure in that original idea if the request was his father's or his own idea. And the pastor was there, the reverend was there, and a woman showed up with a young boy. But that was the image of it, and the fact that the father had been a very unhappy person. And I wrote like a half an hour short, didn't go anywhere. I couldn't expand it. And it wasn't until I thought, oh, two half brothers who shared that father and who had the same name. But I honestly have no only the dark, some dark cavern in the back of the brain.
I love it. It was inspired to you. It sort of came from upon high. I like it. Now, I mean, obviously in a film like this, it is so character driven. I mean, talk to me a little bit just about casting. I mean, casting it all, because I mean, obviously Ethan and Ewan are this great pair, but I mean Maribel and Sophie are just as vital, in my opinion, to sort of the success of this piece.
Yeah, and I think all four of them, did a great job. I didn't have anyone in particular as I was writing, because as the script evolves, you're going through every possible name. Um, but eventually, when I was done with the draft, I did think of Ewan. I'd worked with him before. He's a great actor and a great guy, and I thought he would be a good Raymond, and he responded to it. And when we spoke, Ethan was one of the first names that came up for us. They they both had a sense that they liked each other's work, and that they could work together well. They both believed that they were believable as half brothers, and I think they filled in the roles, especially the relationship between them. I think people are finding very funny and satisfying, and that's not stuff that's in the script. The script is the actions and the dialogue, but all those little looks between them, the way they provoke each other and judge each other, and give each other crap. That's all in their performance. And Sophie and Maribel also perfect. I always imagined Lucia, the character that Maribel plays, as someone who comes across as a little frivolous, but is really quite wise, and is both sexy and maternal. And Maribel just clued into her. In both their cases, with Sophie and Maribel, they made it look so easy, that I was looking at them and liking what I was seeing. If anything occurred to me, I would ask them on set. But it wasn't until the movie was cut together that I realized what a good job they were doing. They really made it look like they weren't acting at all. And it was great to see that come together in the editing room for what it was. I had not realized what a good job they were doing.
Well, and I mean, I think that comes through in the tone of the film as well. I mean, just with sort of the almost cold open with the intro with the brothers, and just sort of the interaction with everyone. And I mean, there's always been sort of, especially in films and storytelling, sort of, oh, this is how you grieve. These are the steps of how you grieve. When in reality, for anyone who has gone through loss, there are no rules at all. And I mean, I think this film really shows that quite brilliantly.
Well, everyone reacts differently to the absurdity of it, and I don't mean to downplay what a death in the family might mean to people, but there is something unreal about life ending, and a body without life, and then putting it in a hole or putting it in an oven and turning it into ashes, and people splitting ashes, so that some different members of the family can keep parts of the ashes. I mean, there's a point where it all becomes just articles of faith, really. If he were here, she would want you to do this. At some point, it's all, we're all writing the story of what and where and how the dead person is.
Did you get a lot of rehearsal time or like table read time on this? Because I mean, again, just especially with the pairings between the two, like sort of the banter and the dialogue really felt so natural and so honest.
I'm not a big rehearser. I think, not that many film directors are. I was a cameraman before. I did come from theater. I'm always a little scared that over rehearsing is going to kill something. I did sit down once or twice, maybe one on Zoom and one in person, just before we started, literally 2 days before we started, sat down with Ethan and Ewan and read through their scenes. And we talked a little bit, but I don't like to get in there too much. I don't want the actors to be acting with my voice in their head. And look, these are very good actors. I mean, these guys have so much experience. And as long as we understand the script in the same way, as long as an actor's not saying to me, no, we have to rewrite all this or that, as long as they're taking the script that I present to them, obviously there's always changes, then I'm happy to just wait and see what they're doing on the set. And with Sophie and Maribel, I did not, I don't think I rehearsed at all. We might have read the scenes just with Maribel and myself on Zoom, but very, very little rehearsing.
I've got to ask, where did you find the grave site? Because it felt very much like a stage in and of itself, just as the film progressed.
That is the middle of a huge cemetery in Richmond. and our production designer David Crank found this little island that had not been populated with graves yet, because obviously there's restrictions with you just working and trampling on graves. So the main area there is his own creation, and it's very integrated into the bigger area. But yeah, it's a stunning cemetery in Richmond, Virginia.
Now, I mean, on something like this, because obviously you've got to drive a story and get to a certain point, but the humor in it is just drop dead hilarious and very sardonic. I mean, how much rope can you give the actors to sort of riff, especially on something like this?
Well, I mean, it was written with what I thought was humor, but I am surprised that people find it as funny as they do. I mean, I don't have that experience with my movies generally. In this case, I'm sitting outside of the theater, the screenings, hearing people laugh. There was humor, but these are funny people, especially Ewan and Ethan. The way they relate to each other in those holes, in those silences between the dialogue, the way they look at each other and judge each other and give each other crap. Like we said before, there's not much improvising of dialogue, but their attitudes are their attitudes. And Maribel is I think someone who she has that funny bone. She can do things straight up that just come across as funny. And even Sophie, with a character that's quite serious, and she brought a great nobility to her, is able to find ironies and things to laugh at. So that's a great blessing that it turned out as funny as people say it is.
Now, I mean, in many ways, in watching it, it felt like a piece where you as a director almost had to step back a little bit and sort of let your actors work. Like, I'm curious for you.
I try to do that as much as possible. I have a director friend who says, direct at your own risk, which is, direct when you have to, but you have to give actors and all your heads of department, you have to give them a space where they can work from their own imagination and their own experience, the way artists do, and their own instincts. And if you are hammering, this is my experience, other directors are different, maybe different. If you're hammering your ideas about what the movie needs to be down on everyone, then you may miss out on great input.
Now, I mean, just to put a bow on this is really such an honest, like, to me, what feels like an honest piece of cinema and an honest piece of storytelling. And I'm curious for you, was there something you saw at a younger age that had sort of similar overtones, that had the light bulb go off in your head that made you want to be a filmmaker?
I was not a film geek. I mean, my father was a big film fan, and I think the neorealists in particular and Kurosawa were a big influence. I would go to the movies that were playing and that kids were seeing back then. But I do remember seeing in my late teens a movie called The Story of Adele H. that Truffaut did. And that really captured me. I thought, wow, that is some crazy story. And it was, based on the real story of the doctor of Victor Hugo. So that was a movie that really made me think, oh, wow, movies can be very different things.
Well, you know what? You've done a hell of a piece of work here with Raymond and Ray, and I can't wait for people to see it. But just thank you so much for the time today. And again, congratulations on the good work.
Thank you. I will choose to believe you.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.